I
Good
think this
morning.
I think this is the latest we've ever been.
Yeah, sorry guys. We had some technical difficulties. There were some updates on our side on the streaming, so our apologies for being a few minutes late.
Well, if you want to kick us off, we can get
Well,
started.
let's get started, guys. It is today in travel. We have some great travel things to talk about today. We have some Disney talk, we have some cruise talk, some cruise news and exciting news. We have airline talk, just lots of neat things to talk about. If you're joining us for the first time, I am Jason Poole. I'm a travel advisor with Cruise Planners. Love traveling the world. Feels like I live at the airport or on a cruise ship. And joining me, as always, my better half of the co-host, Haley. Introduce yourself if someone's joining us for the first time.
Hi, everybody. My name is Haley. I'm the owner of Hospitality with a Flair, which is a hotel sales support company with my amazing team there. And I also write a travel blog, Haley with a Flair, because I hate having free time. And then I spend my free time talking about travel with this guy. Um,
I
you and I have a ton to talk
We have
about.
a lot to talk about, so let's just
Sometimes these
dig.
shows are quick, and then sometimes
Uh,
it's kind of wild.
I know
So
we have a lot to talk about, so let's dig in. Haley, you just got back from California.
yes, it was a whirlwind trip. Long story short, for all of you, I got to see Jason randomly because we started in Seattle to spend some time with friends, and I got to meet Cruz and Q, and her husband. I hope she's watching at some point in time today, because that was great. But yeah, so I went to Disneyland like 20 years ago
Okay.
with family. And as you all know, my family and I enjoy some Disney time. Like we love going every year to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party in Florida. Well, Disneyland has an equivalent of
Okay.
that, except it's called Oogie Boogie Bash. And for those of you that know my daughter a bit more outside of this show and we talk, she is a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan. And I've always wanted to take her, but there were never dates until like August, like Florida does. Like Disneyland's a little smaller, the event dates are smaller. Never been able to do it. Well, this year they opened up two late August dates. Like we literally went to the second one,
Okay.
hopped in a queue, went there. I also got to try the Grand Californian Hotel, which is a Disney deluxe hotel. And I will tell you, like I live and breathe hotels for the last almost 20 years of my life. Um, this possibly was one of the best hotels.
Is it on property or is it off property?
Yeah, so the unique thing about this property, Paris has something similar, and I think the Asian Disneys do.
Okay.
This hotel is actually on theme park property. Like this hotel has its own entrance to the California Adventure Park,
Okay.
and it has its own entrance into downtown Disney. That's like a 6 minute walk to the Disneyland park. So you're skipping all those huge lines. It is the more expensive hotel, but just the benefits that came with it, like those private entrances and the security lines, the level of service, the food, and the character events that were on property. The beds, I'm honestly actually looking to purchase one of these beds to put in my house. It was that comfortable. The food was great. The pool loungers, again, I want some of these loungers for my deck. Like the cushions were like this thick. The service, like I was truly, truly blown away. And of course, like see on Disney property, you get extra time in the parks before the other people can join as well. But truly, it's an expensive buy. Anything Disney's kind of pricey. And I had read before that it wasn't as important to stay on Disney property. I don't think I did back with my family 20 years ago because there's only three hotels out there. It's not as big of a thing as Florida, where it's in its own bubble.
Right.
But God, I kind of disagree. And I will tell you at first, because Jeff didn't know that I booked it. But, after walking 20,000 steps in a theme park, to be able to walk in your own private entrance and be in your room in 2 minutes, he literally looked at me. He goes, "This whole thing just made it worth it." He's like, "This is worth it. If we come here again, I don't want to stay anywhere else." But it was really neat because, like I said, I haven't been to this park in 20 years. I definitely forgot a lot of things. And there's actually quite a few Disney classic original rides, like the Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean that I actually think are better in California versus the Florida
But
park.
land is much smaller in scale, right?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Like, we did a lot of like, I guess, extra walking and ping ponging because we did lightning lanes, and those are whole other videos that I have things on to talk about. But Disneyland is kind of smack dab in the middle of almost like it feels like a city where Florida's kind of in its own bubble. They bought up so much land in Florida.
Right.
They haven't even begin to use all the land that they have. So it really feels like a bubble where, in Disneyland, there's so many hotels around the outside of it that a lot of people, usually do stay off property because there's only 3 Disney resorts because there's no room to build
Right.
anything else. But no, this was an amazing like I will luxury was definitely uh in mind here. Disney actually only owns 2 spas, and one of them is at this particular hotel. And I popped in there for a bit for a little treatment, and it was incredible. Like, truly luxury. You wouldn't necessarily think that with like a theme park hotel, but like this was very, very luxurious. So I was a big fan.
Nice. Well, I always love
Speaking of
hearing.
luxury, let's talk about some modern luxury.
Yeah, so my last true celebrity cruise was a year ago. Yeah, I did a little 2 night in December, but my true last sailing was July on the Beyond the Met. And as we covered it here extensively, there were some changes happening with the brand. And look, we were fair and balanced. We called them out. We said we did not agree with some of the changes. We thought they were negative, and the prices were increasing. No need to rehash that because they have corrected course, right? Pricing has come back down. They've kind of standardized the retreat. And I've been on Edge 47 nights. So I just finished I think it's like my 47th night. I've done Edge class like 120 nights. Okay. So like I really feel at home on Edge class ships.
Yeah.
So I was excited to get back on Edge, but it's been a year. But I was like, how is the retreat going to be? With all the changes.
There was a good amount of changes made there.
I tell you, this cruise has now floated to one of my favorite cruises I've ever done. Okay. The retreat is possibly better than it's ever been. Now there's like standardized retreat amenities, right? It's like some ships let you do this, some ships let you do that. It's just like standardized, printed. I put it on my personal Facebook. Being able to text the butler on WhatsApp was great. The upgraded bathroom amenities, letting you know here's what's included in the mini suite or the mini fridge in your suite, and here's what's not included. Here's a list of the canapes we can bring every day. Select what you want when you want. Or if you want something else, you can do it. They clearly defined in-suite dining. Here's what you can order in your room. Here's the alcoholic beverages you can have delivered to your room as part of your suite experience, complimentary. Here's your upgraded breakfast menu for room service. It's something they should have done a long time ago. And I had a wonderful, wonderful time. The food at Lemonade was fantastic. The service was great. Went to Blue a few times as well. It was maybe the best Blue I've ever had. Service was great on board. I truly had a wonderful time on board. Normally, on the last day of a cruise, I'm kind of angsty and ready to go. I'm showering in the morning. I'm like, let's get the show on the road. I was showering in my Sky Suite. I love the tub shower in there, and I love those. I was getting quite sad at leaving. Like, I did not want to leave. So I am so glad the retreat is fixed. And look, I have clients who did the retreat months ago and said it was that way before. This is just my own personal first time in a while. And kudos to Celebrity. I thought it was wonderful. So thumbs up.
Do you know what I envisioned this as in hotel world? What happened? And who knows, it probably didn't, but like this is just what I envisioned. In hotel world, we have revenue managers. A lot of times revenue managers that I've worked with, especially that are, from a brand like a Marriott revenue manager, a Hilton revenue manager, They're typically people that went to school for finance business and are
Yep.
great at running numbers. Like very great, looking at some statistics and whatnot. So when you do a revenue call with a hotel, you still need the on-site team and the sales team to be like, okay, I know that like the algorithm is trying to push our rates here, but that's kind of like some fake demand. We did put some group in there, but that statistically is not a busy time of year, so we need to bring that back down.
Right.
Well, sometimes these revenue managers are like, no, 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 we need to push rate, we need to push rate, we need to push rate. And you're just kind of like, fine, let's see what happens.
Yep. Yep.
And then I feel like sales and ops is now sitting in that room and being like,
yeah, and this is maybe a topic for another day. I'll say this briefly, then we'll move on. We have a lot of topics. People kept messaging me and asking, do I think the retreat is worth it for Alaska? And I understand the question, but as crazy as it sounds, I think the retreat was probably best used in Alaska. Now, was I on the retreat sun deck a ton? No, because it was cold. But Alaska is cold weather, so people are inside the ship a lot more, right? There's not a lot of people at the pool. There's not a lot of people on like the retreat sun deck. So people are at the cafes, they're at the indoor lounges, indoor bars, which made the retreat lounge, which made your larger suite with the private veranda, I think, even more appealing, being in a cold weather environment because more people are inside. Like I went to the public areas of the ship a few times and I was like, whoa, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people, and versus like, let me get a drink at the lounge, take it to my balcony, have my butler bring me espresso. So I actually think the retreat is even more beneficial in Alaska.
See, I think for me, because I mean, like you and I talked about what price point we think the retreat is good at, like especially in a Sky Suite entry level. We figure out what, $1,000 a day.
I fully stole that from Lorette. She is watching on Instagram. She had a great time sailing with me. I totally stole her metric, and when she said it, a light bulb clicked, and she is right. About $1,000 a day, I think, is a good.
I think that, but I also do think that it's also very itinerary focused.
Yep.
Like Alaska, part of your itinerary is staying on the ship and cruising a glacier.
I mean, that's my favorite day of Alaska. I mean, I could do an Alaskan cruise that got off at 0 ports, and all we did was sail by glaciers.
1,000%. I completely agree with you. I've even talked that that's kind of turned a little bit more into our like Caribbean. Like if I kind of want to do like a getaway, like I'm loving that, especially in the summer because it's not hot.
Yes.
We've had that conversation, but like I look at an itinerary for me, like when I did Enchanted Princess last summer in the Med, that was 6 ports. Mostly ports I haven't been to. Like I don't know if I would have gotten the benefit out of that because I was in port all day. Yes, there is something to come back to your suite and stuff like that, but I think like sometimes it's also itinerary. But I could see what you're talking about, like Alaska, when part of your itinerary is from the ship.
I mean, so the best places to watch glacier sail in was from the retreat sun deck, and then from my balcony on my suite. Most every picture I posted was from my suite.
I'm going to asterisk that and say on Edge class, if you're on Solstice class, you need to get to the back of the lawn club.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. But it was actually colder for that sail in than it was when you and I did it. So it was kind of nice to like be on the balcony. Now, granted, they were handing out blankets, but it was nice to like put on extra layer, grab a blanket, sit, and like watch the glacier sail by. But yeah, you're right. Solstice class, it's beautiful in the back.
Got that. Olivia was like, that was another thing with that Disney hotel, the robes. Like they had that nice warm lighting.
But I'm just thinking my robes a few times. Well, we have a lot more to discuss. So let's jump in. Well, airline news. SAS has joined SkyTeam. So SAS is a Scandinavian airline. They're the official carrier of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. They have hubs in Oslo, Stockholm, and Copenhagen. And they were Star Alliance. As of 2 days ago, they are now SkyTeam. So that means when you're at delta.com, if you're an American, most likely at delta.com, and you are building flights, you might start seeing some connections with SAS, and they're a full member of SkyTeam. So, your SkyTeam benefits carry over. You are Sky Miles if you're flying on SAS. So I think it's awesome. Now SkyTeam is the only alliance. I saw them post this, little propaganda, but they can brag. They're the only alliance that has flights to the most northern major airport in the world and the most southern major airport in the world. So I thought that was kind of a fun little bragging right.
That's a fun little brag, and my mom actually just did a SAS flight this summer.
Oh, right.
She really enjoyed it. They did some business and some economy on it, and really thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Thought the service was wonderful. Thought food was good. So very, very much a welcomed member. I just need them to get somewhere a little back in the med, though.
Yeah.
We're losing Ita. I need that next partner. That's if SkyTeam's listening. That's my next.
I mean, inside baseball, I think it's going to be either Delta picks up more routes, or it's going to have to be Air France KLM, or it's going to have to be, or Delta.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to pick up a little bit more of that.
Right.
It'll probably be Delta because they're kind of thin. I was like,
that way. Now, this was shocking news. Oceania will be sailing out of Tampa. I just didn't really. On one hand, so my first reaction was, wow, I'm surprised, because Tampa is typically a less expensive cruise port. Okay.
It's where the older ships go.
It's where the older ships go. But then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, oh, because of that bridge situation, there could be an angle, a window for a premium, and I call Oceania more like super premium cruise line, to say, hey, you can sail out of your backyard with something a lot nicer than our friendly competitors that are also in port with us.
Yeah, because even though it's a lower area, it's still some of those Tampa sailings, I'm kind of like this for the Rhapsody.
I agree. So my first thought was a little surprised, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, this actually makes
a lot of sense,
because they have the ships that can fit under the bridge. And look, even if you're 2-3 hours away, you can drive and get on an Oceania ship. So I think that's going to be super cool. And people that live down there, I think it's going to be a great option to do something different.
I completely agree. But let's head back up to Alaska here.
Yes.
For a moment.
So when you and I went to Juneau 2 years ago, I thought it was a nice, leisurely day in the city.
Yes.
When I went last week, it was pandemonium. It was insane. Okay? Insane. Now, they've recently restricted it to 5 ships in port. So 4 dock, 1 contender. But starting in 2026, they're going even further, and they're saying you can only have 21,000 tourists a day. So all of a sudden, if Ovation of the Seas is there, that's going to start limiting who else can come. You can't have Ovation probably, and I don't think Ovation and Edge over there together, but you start looking at these larger ships, and all of a sudden it's the smaller ships might start having the advantage of some of these ports that are really wanting to limit the number of consumers, passengers who come in. And I don't think it's going to pass, because I have a good friend and a client that lives there, and inside baseball, they're voting on a referendum to have cruise ship free Saturdays.
Yes, they are. I don't think they'll get away with that, because it's a job thing, and that's a scarcity market as well. That's only really valid May through mid-October.
Yeah, they have 6 months of the year to really make money, ish.
Yeah, but there's that degree of over tourism. You see Venice putting in that day fee. Yep. I will tell you, when I was in Mykonos, gorgeous.
Yep.
But it also, in that port area, felt like hell on earth.
Yep. I've
Like
been there with
like
the
I think there were like 6 ships
I
and like big ships, like Enchanted Princess, big ship. Beyond, big ship.
know.
Like
I know. I just, and I know we think about like Oasis class and Icon, which we'll talk about Icon in a second, is like the big ships. But to these tiny little ports, Celebrity Beyond is a massive ship. I will never forget, Haley, when you and I were in Hawaii and we told a tour that we booked where we swam with the dolphins and we were on the Solstice. And he goes, "Oh, you're on the big ship."
and you and I were like, oh yeah, no, it's kind of like a medium.
But to them, used to like Pride of America, it is a big ship. I mean, it's all relative. When I was in the Galapagos, I was in Santa Cruz. People asked me what ship I was on. I said Flora. They said, "Oh, you're on the big one." It's like, oh, I guess to them, 100 is a lot. So we'll follow that. Hopefully, that makes a little bit of a more pleasant experience. But to sweeten up the deal,
I know. I
the
thought that this was quite strategic.
oh yes,
Strategic.
The Royal Caribbean Group has said, hey, we're going to bring free Wi-Fi to downtown Juneau with Starlink. So businesses can tap in. Our guests can walk along in the streets and jump in. Because I noticed it when I was there. Like my cell service wasn't the best in downtown Juneau.
It's not.
And so they're like, hey, we're going to bring you guys free Starlink. So this is definitely them sucking up.
110%.
Yep. So speaking of the big ships, Haley, it's clear to say Icon of the Seas has been a hit.
Yes.
People go on it. They love it. I've heard some hardcore Royal Caribbean fans say it is their favorite ship. And they've already ordered a third one, which we know about. We know the name of the second one, Star. We know the name of the third one. They just announced they're ordering a fourth Icon, and they received an option to order a fifth and a sixth Icon class ship. I mean, that is crazy to me, in kind of a good way. But I do wonder, in the age of like over tourism, it's like there's gonna like Icon is probably never going to be able to go to like Alaska unless we're being woefully naive and not thinking big enough.
I think my question comes in with these ships. I feel like we are going to see a continued rise in private destinations.
Oh yeah.
But in essence, because even think of the ports that can accommodate these, like it's very limited.
Yeah.
And does it make sense to contribute money to one of these islands to building an extended pier, or does it make more sense to look at more private beach options?
I mean, look at what Royal Caribbean's doing in Cozumel. Look what they're doing in Nassau. I mean, if Haiti can get its political situation under control, Labadee could be expanded and blown out a little bit more. Like pre-pandemic there was the South Pacific private island they were talking about doing.
Yeah.
So
I bet that will come back online.
I
I think it will. And I think that's what you're going to see a rise in. I think Royal's almost kind of going the Disney route of making.
You're in the bubble.
Yeah. Keeping you in the bubble, keeping your money in that bubble.
Yep. No, I agree completely. Well, we're moving on to the tip of the day. This is your tip. So tell us what you mean.
So you and I struggle sometimes because we're like, man, we've been doing this show for a hot minute. I'm like, what other travel tips are there really out there? And one dawned on me when I was in Seattle. We've talked about resort fees.
My favorite.
A lot. Go through the replays. And you know how we don't like them. There's lawsuits about them needing to be more transparent, included about fees. And one of the things I realized in Seattle is I stayed at a property I typically don't, which I actually ended up falling very much in love with based on location and their resort fee amenities. Is I have to remind myself to also look at these resort fees because some people will be like, "Oh, here's your resort fee. It includes premium Wi-Fi and 2 bottles of water and
I
two
mean,
beach chairs."
not to call out my favorite brand, but you mean like the Thompson?
Yeah, like, and that's very very standard.
Yep. Yep.
And in most big places, I mean, you're talking like major beaches in Hawaii, New York City, Seattle, um, places in California, like you're going to see resort fees, like in those kind of places. Um, but needing to take a closer look. So, for example, I have stayed at the Charter in Seattle, kitty corner from the Thompson. I stayed at the W in Seattle, paid, 25-ish dollar resort fees for my bottled water or whatnot. So I had a $25 resort fee at the Sheraton Grand in Seattle. However, that $25 resort fee, I got my bottles of water.
Yep.
I got a $10 Uber credit every day. I got a $25 Starbucks credit for my stay. And there were other like little like fitness class things, like, there's a yoga studio you could go to. But I was like, if I'm in a place like Seattle, like, I was definitely using Uber here and there because I mean those hills,
Yeah.
those hills, depending where you're going, can be a bit rough. But I'm like, man, if I'm gonna pay that $25, it's kind of nice to get that in
I agree.
essence back on something that I was going to spend already.
I agree.
Marriott is partnered with Uber. Hilton's partnered with Lyft. Delta's partnered with Lyft. So I think that that's just kind of the thing. Make sure you are comparing what the resort fees include, because you might find that there's a similar property that's maybe a hint more, but their resort fee
Right.
includes more of what you would be using and spending on your trip. So just a little
Nope.
tidbit.
Great tip. All right. Well, we got to get back to it. Guys, thank you so much for joining. We'll